Hello. Welcome to Bravo. We're Black and Brown today because as a motherfucking promise, I got a great guest and a great co-host with me. Y'all already know Noor from The Reality Is. This is Bravo While Black 5 years of Black excellence. And it's so amazing to be here for 5 years. Didn't think I would do that. So we just got the best of the best here. And now I've been teasing that I was going to have another special guest. I didn't want to announce it publicly, so I only announced it to Patreon just in case I got embarrassed. But he actually showed up. We have Imrul from Summer House. You guys, Imrul is actually here. If you're watching the video version, I know a lot of you are audio listeners. Actually, 98% of you are audio listeners. But if you're watching the video version, we have him here, and he looks just like he does on TV, except now he has a mustache, and he's rocking that grown man shit. Like,
yeah.
Welcome, Imrul. Thank you so much for coming on the pod. Thank you for saying yes. Thank you for being so flexible and so chill about it.
Thank you for having me. Congratulations on 5 years.
Thank you.
And probably, obviously, many more years of Black excellence, but 5 years of Black excellence on the pod. Congrats. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to talk to you all about, everything and anything under the sun.
Yeah. Hell yeah. And Noor, thank you for co-hosting with me, because I definitely just sprung this on you.
No, it's totally fine. I mean, in full disclosure, yeah, it may have been. In full disclosure, I've just been Kay and I have just been texting about you, Imrul, because we feel like there was an injustice done with the Imrul representation on Summer House this season. So I'm just excited for you to be here. I definitely have some questions for you, just to understand like what your experience was being on Summer House. I mean, look, I know that there's things that you can probably not share with us, but I feel like we need to get to the bottom of what happened in that 37 minutes, because I will still never believe whatever they showed on my television screen. I feel like it was cut. There was suddenly not an after show. There was so much stuff. There was shady shit. And I was like, you know what? Brown man to brown girl. Like we're both from the South Asian subcontinent. My family's from Pakistan. Bangladesh used to be unfortunately conquered by Pakistan at one point. So I do feel really bad about that, but I feel like we're brethren, you know, we're homies.
You apologizing for the color.
I will always apologize for being an oppressor to everybody except for my husband. This is so interesting, Imrul, because when you joined Summer House, right, as a brown woman, I'm like, immediately I see a person of my community on TV. I'm like, oh God, they're going to embarrass us. What the hell is going to happen? Right. And I'm always like, let me see what this person's really about. Let me see how they use their platform. And I was just like, so freaking touched of how you actually used your platform. It was fantastic. Like, and there was a lot of, I mean, I feel like people were being so precious about the sex stuff. I was just like, why are we acting like this is not a show for seasons where people just literally hooked up? But I thought
that we had a whole, not to interrupt.
Yeah.
We had a whole bunch of episodes centered around who got finger banged. And those were some of my favorite episodes. So I'm just like, let's be for real right now.
Exactly. So then when we started to get to know more about you on the show, and like obviously you talked a little bit about like being undocumented, that's super relevant always, but currently especially right now.
I started paying attention to you, Imrul, and when you shared that, that's when I followed you and I commented. I'm like, this is like so important, because I know so many people who, not the same exact situation, but like, for example, like the dreamers and shit like that. So many of my friends are a part of that, and they've been threatened, like so many times. What are they going to do? And like, I'm like, these people got here when they were like younger, and like now it's just so much. So I'm like, okay, so this person has something to say, and then it just kind of like
just went away.
And it was just like, hold on, like, okay, I want to hear about the openness of your sexuality. I actually thought that was refreshing.
Super refreshing.
And also, not only that, like when you were talking about it, it was like they showed them asking you questions and you responding to the questions. So I'm like, okay, it's not like he's walking around talking about, hey, like, it was just actually like interesting. So, I mean, you're clearly a multi-layered person, been through a lot, explained why you have the viewpoint that you do, not only as an immigrant, but also as someone who is in a part of a culture that doesn't allow you to explore that. So I thought that was so interesting. And especially since I thought that we learned from Alex, who was a Hispanic man, and we did not get to explore his story. He had one season, everyone was just like, oh, he's fucking boring. So now I'm like, okay, now we got someone else of color in the house. So we've learned our lesson, right? We can't do the same thing over, right? And
they're like, he's too exciting. Yeah, they're like, he's too exciting. There's too much going on with him. We don't want to hear it. And I would love to know, like, Imrul, did you have some of these conversations? Because, you know, you said something right now, which is that like when communities experience things like genocide and we see it happening to another community, that wakes shit up inside of us. And that's why we become more aware. That's why it's important to vote. And I want to know, like, in the summer house, were you having these kinds of conversations with anybody? Like, do you feel like there were people that would like be receptive to that? Or were they just like calling you whatever orgy beast and treating you like a piece of meat? Like, what was that like, you know?
Yeah. You know, I think everyone's what I realized is people aren't as interested as you think they would be in something like that. You know, maybe I didn't do the best job in parlaying that information out there. I kind of just threw it out there a little bit. Kyle knew a bit about the backstory. We had the conversations about it, and some of the other guys. You know, we had a little talk right after, but that was it. You know, no one else asked any questions, and I don't know. Maybe sometimes do I like I thought about it as I'm going up in these weekends and we're having experiences. Like, do I bring it up again, or is that something that just comes up? Because, you know, it comes from a weird place where I hid that story for the longest time. It was something that I wasn't proud of, you know, and I didn't even tell my best friends, you know. So I come from this place of just like living in the shadow, even though I'm in public, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it comes from that trauma that, okay, well, shit, I've kind of just threw it out there. You know, hopefully it sticks and, you know, someone brings it up again, because I don't know if I can do it again. And I don't know if I want to put myself out there. Oh, hey, by the way, I want to bring this up one more time. It just didn't seem right. And it was also, you know, coming from a place, like I said, where I wasn't sharing this for the longest time. I was a little surprised that people weren't as interested in it. But at the same time, you know, there's a lot going on in the house. There really is. People got their own things going on. And, you know, sometimes we become a bit more self-involved especially on something. I think you go two ways about this. One, you're super interested in it because it's such a different perspective. I think I would have been the guy who was like, if I was not myself, I'd be like, what, tell me more, you know?
Yeah.
And then the other side of it is like, well, I don't want to say anything wrong, maybe, and they're so nervous about it because something's so foreign from who they are.
Yeah.
So I think it's one of those two things, you know. I don't know which part they are, I don't know, but I think it's one of those two things that kind of left that conversation by the poolside, and that's it, never to be talked about again. Yeah.
Wow. So it was never talked about again. It was just that one time that you guys talked.
Yeah. I had a discussion about it, and I did the little reel when that episode aired, and, you know, Kyle said a few nice things and things like that. That's pretty much it. But as far as conversation goes, never talked about it again. You know, and
that's weird because as like
there was maybe a little. I'm trying to remember now. I think again, there was a little bit in that day that we spoke about, but that was it. I think people were just like, okay.
I think also sometimes people feel like they don't, they a lot, and, you know, kind of like, I think people experienced this initially when like Black Lives Matter was happening, and not in 2020. I'm talking about like since I was like in college and we would talk about these things, people would be like, well, I just don't know enough about it to like have an opinion or like to have a conversation. So I think sometimes when people hear stuff like undocumented, they hear illegal and they feel like border crossing. I'm not saying that that's what anybody in the summer house path thinks, but I think that they sometimes feel like, well, I don't have the tools to have this conversation, so I'm just like not going to have it, you know?
Yeah.
Well, okay, so we saw, I don't know if you watched all of Summer House, but we saw, like, as a Black person, we had to see Maya talk about, like, they kept saying like her name wrong, and she's like, my fucking name is literally Maya, and it's not like a hard name, it's not hard to remember. And like Andrea, like, I loved Andrea, beautiful man, married now, so that opportunity's gone, but he was like, I'm so
he's always divorced. You never know.
Manifest, baby.
Anyways, he was like, you know what? I'm so sorry. Like I didn't do that on purpose. And for him to be like Italian and to be able to have that harder conversation, it was just like, well, then why aren't these American bitches in New York, the most progressive city in the world, able to like even feign some type of give a fuck about Maya and what you brought up? So that was just a little bit disappointing. And then you kind of got like pigeonholed into literally like your sexuality and what you do. And it's not necessarily in the cast's fault, but I feel it's also the lack of, I'm sure you filmed so much more that we didn't see. So it's like production, one, the way that things are edited, and the narrative that they wanted to go with. So it was just annoying to see. But I brought you here today to lighten the mood, to get to know Imrul a bit more. So today's the pop culture episode. What we do on the pop culture episode is every Wednesday we pick a Black person to get, last week, the last 2 weeks, my Black Excellence Awards went to white people, but it was for a good reason, and I can do what the fuck I want because bravo, we're Black 5 years. But so this week, we are all going to pick someone to give our Black Excellence Award to, and it is going to be, and I gave it to her last week. I think Taylor Crumpton actually gave it to her. The actress that plays Riri Williams, Dominique Thorne, because she is going to be playing basically like the new Iron Man on Ironheart. And I know that you guys, we're balls deep in Love Island USA, and me, UK too. So much so that I've developed a UK accent. Check out the Black After Sun that I put out. But Dominique Thorne, she's going to be Ironheart. There's going to be 3 episodes that drop on this yesterday 3 episodes dropped. So if you haven't watched it, go watch it now. And then next Tuesday, pull yourself away from Love Island and make sure you check out Ironheart. I just want to give her the Black Excellence Award. And also, second, Robert Downey Jr., because he called in and he was like, I'm so proud of you and I love the show and you are actually going to kill it. And that's important for the person who is carrying the mantle to, pass it on, especially when you're passing it on to a person of color. So shout out to Dominique Thorne and also Robert Downey Jr. for the Black Excellence Award today. So amazing. Noor, would you like to go?
I am going to go. And I think we're just like talking about this right before we started recording. And I'm going to give my Black Excellence Award to a brown person, which feels weird, but you just gave it to Robert Downey. So I feel like it's safe.
He has many DUIs. Look into his history. He has a lot of criminal history. Look it up. And he's still with Marvel and he's playing Doctor Doom. So
hopefully by the time you're listening to this, we have really good news, because, the other like person that's potentially going to be the Democratic nominee is fucking Andrew Cuomo. You want to talk about there not being a cancel culture? This man has sexually harassed 13 women. He had to be disgraced and removed from his fucking position as governor of New York State, and he's coming in trying to run. And guys, again, a cancelable person. Yeah. Bill Clinton endorsed him yesterday, so it's like that is the other option we have. But Brad Lander and Zohran Mamdani get it, because
it's not fucking funny, but it's like, look at what we're doing.
What are we doing?
Or so low, like you said, the president can do whatever the heck he wants, as long as you're like, well, I'm not as bad as that guy.
Exactly.
And then there's also like a numbing effect that happens with all this when you get all these people like being so awful, and then we're like, okay, well, that I guess if everyone's awful, then that's just a normal thing that happened with these guys who are 67 years old, and you kind of normalize this absurdity within that culture, to the point that I was talking to somebody today about that, like their mother is voting for Cuomo, and was saying that, well, it's a different time, and you hear that so much, but that's there's so much of that happens, especially amongst, in justifying the actions of old white men. And I don't know if the other way around, it's like, like you don't, and I remember Obama talking about this. He had to be goddamn perfect.
Bro, he wore a
That's to be
tan.
perfect. I mean, whatever, like whatever he did internationally. I'm not talking about his policies. I'm saying as a human being,
Yeah.
to be just like the best human being possible. And even then, they were like, no, he's like, they made him out to be this awful person, and it's crazy.
And then even now, they're like, what is Obama doing?
Where is Obama? I'm like, leave him alone.
Fuck? Where's Kamala? What the fuck? What do you mean? She's getting her back blown out and fucking going to like fucking Hamilton, babe. Like, don't worry about it. Like, let her rest. Let this Black brown woman rest. You didn't give her the job. Like, excuse me, if I go on Indeed and you didn't hire me for the job, guess what? My ass is literally going on LinkedIn. Like, what are you talking about? I'm minding my fucking business.
And what's mind-numbing about that is that now in New York, you do have two amazing candidates. So you have Brad Lander, who is a Jewish man, and Zohran Mamdani, who's like the first Muslim candidate. And
shout out to the mother. Sorry. Shout out to the Jews and the Muslims and the Christians.
No, and so you have
Lander is also like the guy who created the progressive wing of the, of New York City politics. So they're both.
It's incredible. And they're doing this amazing job of talking about really important topics. Like, obviously, whatever is happening in Palestine is something that's not left us for a really long time. And a lot of people are like, why are they asking these people about, a New York mayoral race, what they think about what's going on? And I'm like, do you not realize that the largest population of Jewish people in the world outside of Tel Aviv is New York City? They should be asking these questions. And the way that a Muslim man and a Jewish man are coming together and having a progressive point of view and talking about it, I was just like, this is the excellence that we need. So, when we talk about like, oh, where's Obama and where's Kamala Harris? Okay, forget them. You have two candidates that should be getting all of the world's support right now. And I'm hoping that tomorrow we have great news. But this isn't even the finish line, because he's still going to have to run in November. Like that.
Well, he's going to win. I feel like whoever's going to win this primary will win. But
oh God, I hope so. One would hope, right? One would.
Who's on the Republican side?
I don't know.
Stilwell.
Yeah,
I was watching this Colbert thing yesterday.
Yeah,
everything, and it's crazy how people miss the mark on some of these questions, and they're asking both these. And Colbert was asking these guys like this dumbass question of like, do you believe in the right for Israel to exist? I mean, no one's really. That's not the point. What they were trying to say. All they really said publicly is they want Palestinians to live. That's like they're saying death to Israel. They didn't say any of that, but that's that question that they're asking. That's on national television. I think in nature, pretty racist.
Oh yeah, I mean, every time you ask a Muslim person whether or not they believe that Israel has a right to exist, I'm like, well, that is coming from a place of Islamophobia that you're even asking me that question. Like, brother, I don't even know. I don't even think men should be allowed to exist. Don't ask me about nations. Like, forget that, So it's stuff like that. But I don't know. I just hope that Brad Lander and Zohran just, I hope that once he gets the nominee, it continues this way. So
I can't illegally vote from Florida, right?
No, we can't. I mean, I'm in Jersey and I can't do it. So
okay. All right. So let's get this back on track because we got some questions to go here.
Yeah.
Imrul, who is your Black excellence for this week?
Talking about, I don't know why I'm like thinking about who I can say that's kind of uncommon. I mentioned Obama, obviously. She's great thinking about what's happening right now. But do you guys remember Stacey Abrams?
Of course.
I remember, I kind of just tuned out politics for the longest time because it was just too much, especially with this guy here.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, what she did during the 2020 election, and she's coming back. She's coming back, and she's really pushing the envelope in Georgia when there's so much adversity against her, and her being a woman, her being Black. There's so many death threats and obviously political smear campaigns against her, and she's kind of just been doing it, and she's been pushing the agenda, the progressive agenda, the we have the right to exist agenda for not 5 years now or even longer, but like 5 years at least that I've known her. And
been woke. Been woke. I mean, Black women in general, this is nothing new to us. That's why when everyone is panicking, we're just like, take a seat, babe.
Yeah,
welcome. Welcome. Okay, now on to some fun stuff. Since this is a pop culture episode, and I'm not going to make you talk about Bravo the whole time, I want to know, what do you enjoy watching? Like, what are you watching right now? Are you on Love Island? Do you watch reality TV? Do you watch like geeky stuff? Do you even have time to watch TV? Because if I'm going from your time on Summer House, all I think about you when I think about you is fucking. So when you're not fucking, what are you actually doing? What are some of your hobbies? Like, who is actually Imrul?
Well, I mean, the fucking takes up 75% of my day, so there's only so much I can do. Listen, I've been in relationships, or these relationships, for the past few years. I kind of talked about it a little bit. I didn't really go too much into it, and I didn't do a good job, I think, in my opinion, of demonstrating who I am as far as that goes. Obviously, if I go out and there's a connection there with somebody random, I'll do that. But that doesn't happen that often. Kind of happened. It's a Hamptons. People are in a different wavelength there. It just happened to be that way. But I always tend to like see people for multiple people sometimes, but very honest about it.
Okay, so are you partnered now?
So during the filming last year, I was partnered with like 2 different women for like the year, for a whole year before that, and kind of like for 8-9 months. I just kind of ended things recently with both of them because,
ladies,
it's difficult. It's difficult because it's like, I have to understand what my role in this is. I'm very upfront about it, but I also know that it's a lot easier for guys to have these kind of connections than women. For women, it's so much harder. The bar is so much higher, and as it should be, because you guys have standards. Sometimes we don't always think that way. But more importantly, society, like, as much as I got judged for what I did, I can do whatever I want, essentially, and it's so much more difficult for women, for someone outside of TV, but definitely on TV, for them to have done what I did, they wouldn't be able to see the light of day again. I think people just putting that scarlet letter on them and having them trot around the city that way, and it's so much easier for me to do so. So I also had to be super mindful about that, about where I am with all this and where they are, and what my responsibility is to the person across from me, because it's so easy to get caught up in comfortability and just like, okay, well, it's easy, let's keep doing what we're doing. It's not that you're not that, like my whole thing is, if it makes sense, keep it going, but also stay very present, because it's hard for me to think past the present. And I think sometimes, and I'm broad strokes kind of thing here, I think women tend to kind of see the future, even if I'm saying that, okay, well, let's just kind of just go with the flow kind of thing. So I had to make the hard decision and saying, well, I know you're saying it's going well and it's fine, it's easy, and this is what you want, but I really had to pull back from this, because I don't think because there's too much of an imbalance there, and it's going to be hurtful right now. It's going to suck for both of us, but it's just the right thing to do. Because the last thing and I try not to lead people on, but it happens, because it's not even like with my words, it just happens over time. It's like,
you can't, once you spend time with someone, and especially if you're enjoying yourself, you are obviously going to have more feelings for them. And even if you are okay with that lifestyle, it's just hard to control like how you feel, and how you feel is how you feel.
How you feel, exactly.
And just because you're being upfront, it doesn't mean that like you're always the good guy, you have to, like you said, like if you catch something and you're like, okay, this is going this way, so let me pull back from it, and before it gets worse. So I think that is definitely genius. So right now you're single, but the question is what do you watch on TV?
I was going to say, I have more time, I think, to watch things.
You do great. By the way, this explanation, you do great on Love Island. You would do amazing on Love Island.
But the reason I did Summer House was because I think I made a joke and it never got aired when they were giving shit about like hooking up with so much. I'm like, I'm sorry, I thought this was Love Island. Did my agent give me the wrong memo? I thought this was some dating show, and you guys just sucked. But okay, right. I don't know if I could do a whole thing when it's just around that. I was hoping to like bring my alternative lifestyle, whatever you want to call it, and viewpoints from a person who's had like 2 5-year relations back to back, who's done the monogamous route, who's like, okay, well, now I just want to live a life, especially being undocumented and having that part of me where it felt like I wasn't able to be my full self, or just spread my wings, whatever you want to call it, right? And I've kind of felt that the last few years. So yeah, I mean, Love Island would be great, but at the same time, I think it's like a full-time thing over there. Whereas like with Summer House, I was just out there in the weekends, just right out back and live my life. And I'm like, that sounds dope. You can pay me a lot to the Hamptons for the weekend, and I can come right back and do whatever the heck I'm doing. That's the only reason I think I did it. I'm not sure if I'm like best for reality television. I really,
well, why don't you let the viewers decide? Because we thought you were great. But what are you?
But what do you watch, Imrul? I'm trying to
Okay, all right. I mean, listen, I just there's
because I know that you're on a time limit, so that's why I'm trying to get to know.
What do I watch? I've all right. What do I am boring as hell. I watch sports, and then I watch a bunch of I watch a bunch of things on YouTube, um history documentaries.
Amazing.
and I love, because I'm like a nerd with that kind of stuff, just like, okay, I can watch this a little bit and love and just love every moment of it. And I think sports is like my reality television where I can just tune out.
No, that's fair.
Yeah.
I was telling people that, okay, so you know how Love Island is so big. I was like, girls, look near you, and I want to tell you guys this listening, look up Love Island watch parties near me. And there's so many Love Island watch parties going on at bars, at like the most random places. And I'm like, this is our Super Bowl. We will never have this feeling again. So you need to go to these Love Island watch parties to feel what men feel when they watch sports. Because I know literally just a few days ago, I live in South Florida. So we have the Panthers, and this is for hockey. Yeah. And for a long time, I got schooled on this because someone heard me say I didn't know shit about sports. And then, of course, he had to mansplain this whole history of the Panthers to me. But what I got from it was the Panthers were very bad for a very long time. Last year, they won the damn, what's it called?
Stanley Cup.
Stanley Cup.
Right. Okay. Oh,
we got sports fans here.
Oh, look, you have a Stanley Cup.
By the way, this is from now on. This is a politics and sports podcast.
Yeah.
Full disclosure, just gonna announce my own pod. If you want to hear that, you could go over to the Reality Is pod. That's what we're talking about.
Reality Is for sure with Noor. This is just but yeah. So they won the Stanley Cup last year, and then they won it again this year. And the white people are going wild. They were taking public transit, they were on the beach. They were letting people drink out. Well, they had a replica of it, and they were letting people drink out of it. So I'm like, wow, that togetherness is what people must feel like. What is it like being a man with that sportsmanship? So then I'm like, okay, I saw a Love Island party. There's Love Island parties in Miami, in Deerfield, in West Palm Beach. I'm in near Fort Lauderdale, so I haven't seen any near me. So I'll probably go down to Miami if I go to one. But girls, look up Love Island watch party and just experience that, because it's just the same as having sports for us, at least. Reunion Love Island watch parties. It's just like going in the women's bathroom. If you want to know what happens in the women's bathroom, is just look at a Love Island watch party, and that's what's happening.
Yeah.
So you watch sports, and you watch history
documentaries, and this guy Johnny Harris, he's a YouTuber. He does a bunch of just deep dives into just random different stories. I think I'm just a very curious person. Someone who's describing that as me. I just love knowing random stuff like that.
What's your sun sign?
I'm a Libra. What's my sun sign?
Yeah, you're a Libra. Okay, you're a Libra.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and I'm very much a Libra.
You are. I was just about to say exactly. I was gonna, if I had to guess, I'd be he's probably a Libra, and you are. Oh my God, yes, love that. Okay, so
that
all these random things. Give me a fun random fact. It can be a history fact. It can be that guy that you just listed. Yeah. Give me something that it was you heard and you were like, oh shit, this is dope. Tell me.
Yeah. There's I have a bunch of those random little factoids. There's an animal called a Luna moth that doesn't have a mouth, that doesn't eat, It's born and its only function is to fuck and then die. That's it. It doesn't eat. It's for 12 days. It survives for 12 days and whatever it has in gestation.
What a life.
Cannot do anything else but find a mate and go and, go do its deed. And for that, obviously, it's my spirit animal. And
oh yeah,
that's a Luna moth. It's super interesting, I think.
I definitely need to look it up because I definitely have never heard of that. I mean, I don't even like butterflies really, so that's
no, but I mean, they're just a cool animal. They
no, like if I
you don't even
recognize one, I'm like, I know what you're here for.
I don't know what they look. They look like a moth. I never looked into them, but here's a little, just like a fun little stories that I hear down the way. Like, okay, for example, there's that term "hair of the dog." Do you know where that?
Yes.
Where does it come from? I've heard the term.
Yeah, you know what it means, right? It means you get drunk, you drink something the next day, the same thing, and guess what? It's gonna cure your hangover, right?
It doesn't work for me, but yeah.
I mean, sometimes I think the reason it would work is just like blocks up the capillaries going to your brain because that's what alcohol does. So that pounding headache, you have less of it. That's the scientific reason behind it, from what I can understand. I'm not a scientist.
No, but you watched enough stuff, so I feel like
anyway, so no one caught that.
I heard it.
No, I heard it. Like, I'm listening to you.
All right, so hair of the dog.
So hair of the dog. So hair of the dog is if you get bit by a rabid dog back in the day, in the 1500s, you're probably going to die of rabies if that dog had rabies. It's still like hard to cure now, but if they catch it early on, you're fine. But back in the day, you had rabies, or if the dog had rabies, you'd be dead. So, but every single dog didn't have rabies, right? So if you get, what happened was one dog bit this human and then they didn't get rabies. And what they did right before that is take a hair of that dog and put it on their wound. And then, obviously that doesn't do shit. But
I was about to say, I was
like, pretty sure they still died.
Well, no, I mean they
got rabies.
Well, the dog didn't have rabies. You don't know if the dog has rabies, and I don't know if it's 100% sure.
Yeah.
Even if the dog did, but it worked once, and then they got bit, and
it worked once. People are like, no, this is the truth.
That's the entire wellness grift on TikTok is like.
It's just like it's like on I don't know. You watch Talladega Nights and. Like if you're not first, you're last. And then his dad is like, "Oh hell, Bobby, I was high when I said that," and he's like, "But I've been living my whole life like this." It's like you hear something once and it works, or it sounds good at least, then you kind of live your life by that. And then sometimes you have the effect that it makes it kind of like work,
the placebo. Yeah,
for sure. I mean, there's so much of that, right? And especially with group thing, people if not people say it, it's real. And there's so much. One of my favorite podcasts is Science Versus, and it goes into like that.
Your second favorite,
actually your third favorite.
Oh yeah, great. They were just talking about like I take creatine all the time. And it's like there's studies here and there about it, and then like they did deep dive into it, and it's like it's mostly bullshit. Maybe you look into it, but there's this idea that one it's getting spread so much by people talking about it, and it's a lot of just mental stuff. It's just like, well, I think this is going to do something for me, so I'm going to work out harder or whatever maybe, and like the actual chemical and neurological response to it is just so minimal compared to like the psychological thing behind thinking something is true, so you're going to make that a fact.
You really are a scientician, Imrul.
Scientician, but yeah, it's one of my passions. No, it's like I love that kind of fun stuff. I wish you all saw more of that. They don't really come out as much, and I think a big part of the show. I talk about people like, oh, what'd you think of the show? It's like, or being on. I'm like, it was a good experience. I had a good time.
Yeah.
There are some people who, and this is what I said. I don't know if I was best on the show or reality, whatever it is. And there's a whole process to get it to where I got to. It wasn't you don't just pick somebody out of the street, right? So I think there are people, and I played sports my whole life, played basketball my whole life. There are people who.
How tall are you? My grandma wore.
I'm 6'2".
Wow.
Yeah. Well, I talked about this recently. I'm like, that's the biggest privilege point. I was trying to get some. I'm going on segues right now, but I was trying to get a friend of mine to understand what Black Lives Matter meant. And he's a tall white guy, and he's nice enough, and he means well at least. But he comes from like, poverty, and he didn't really quite understand like, well, what's going on here? Why? Like I didn't have anything. Why does my, the whole like, why does my life not matter? And I was like, it's not that your life doesn't matter, just that there's different levels to this shit, Like you're a tall man. He's 6'3". I'm like, we're both tall. Yeah, we're both tall. It's like, do you know how much easier our life is than it would be if we were shorter? It doesn't mean that we don't struggle with things. Of course we struggle with things. But if you're going through the same thing you're going through right now and you're 5'5", as a man, it's completely different than you are as a 6'2", 6'3" man. Yep. That's privilege right there. And that's what we're talking about when we talk about Black Lives Matter. It's not so much that it doesn't mean that if you're white you don't have issues. It's just that it's just a whole different level, and there's things that you can't see because you're not black or you're not brown or whatever it may be, because you're white or because you're tall. And there's a whole different life that the way people judge you, just make this just initial reaction judgment based on how you look. You get that as a short man. You get that as a person of color, and that's what I was trying to relay to him. And I don't think he quite got. He's like, should I be shorter? I'm like, no. That's what I'm trying to say. And that's the
well, also Bravo is chock full of very tall men who are very, very not worth the trouble, and they somehow get more and more screen time. So yeah, I agree with you. Tall men get away with a lot more shit than shorter people.
I'll tell you that right now. Like, I'll be like, as a man, you should, and he'll be like, I'm 6'3" though, and I'm like, anyways. But I want to tell the people how you got here, other than obviously me asking you, and also I think that I manifested it. Like, I just feel so powerful right now because I manifested Rachel Lindsay. Well, Aaron manifested Rachel Lindsay, and she was here, and then I manifested a couple of guests here. But what I did was, when they kind of like confronted, because I had gotten to the point on Summer House, sometimes I check out because it's not necessarily the people on the show, it's the audience that pisses me off. Mm-hmm. And there's just like, oh, why is Sierra being a mean girl, and what is Emerald doing on here, and what happened to Bailey, and all this bullshit. I'm just like, you know what? I'm gonna let a couple episodes build up. So I let a couple episodes build up. It was like 3 episodes, and then like you were actually on these episodes, and then like I saw some like discourse online, so I dedicated, because I do solo episodes on Mondays, Thursdays, and Fridays. So I was like, I dedicated an entire episode that was like, let Emerald fuck in peace. Like, we have so many men out here living this exact same lifestyle, but lying to us about it. Also, this is called Summer House, not Virgin House. Also, these bitches are not understanding that you're not being disrespectful to these women. Like, we didn't see anyone's face. Like, you didn't brag about it. They would always ask you what was going on. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, what is the problem with that? So I just wanted to shout out a listener. She deleted her Instagram and her threads, all her social media, because she does not fuck with Zuck. And I'm like, girl, you go, girl.
Good for you.
Good for you. I'm addicted, so they got me. But she wrote me an email after listening to my episode called Let Emerald Fuck in Peace, and I have noticed that my podcast has descended into madness and chaos, and you guys love it, so I'm just going to continue to just put my opinions out there. But she wrote me a beautiful email, and I will be reading it, so you know that you had supporters out there, so much so that she took the time to actually like find our email. Well, I say my email, and actually send an email, which is so like,
it's like writing a handwritten letter. Like, yeah.
So cool. So she goes, hey Kaya, or Kaya, because I go by both. Long time listener, first time emailer, big time fan. Beth, I love you for starting the email that way in the first place. I used to follow and interact with you and Aaron on Insta, but post-election, I'm riding the fuck Zuck train until the end of the line. So now I'm embracing the 90s lifestyle and sending you an email instead. Anyway, I'm listening to your current episode and totally agreeing that Emerald is free to fuck his little poly heart out. I just have to say your point, because one of my points was like, Jessie gets a pass because he is a straight white man. Like, I understand that he has one ball, and I love him for sharing his cancer journey, like dead ass. Like, That's hard to do, but he still has, even with one ball, a certain amount of privilege that Emerald does not. So I was trying to point that out.
And I think also, like, I think this season it was so good to see the differences between, like, I was being so upfront, you know, and
mind you, this man is over here love bombing a bitch, and you got anyway. So she was like, anyway, I'm listening to your current episode, and besides totally agreeing that Emerald is free to fuck his little poly heart out, I just have to say your point about Jessie getting away with the same shit because he's conventionally attractive. And she was like, personally, I beg to differ. So Beth thinks you're hot. She's like, made me audibly yell out loud in agreement. It's especially irritating because Emerald is hotter than, okay, well, she called you hotter than Jessie. She said that you have cheekbones for the gods, luscious flowing hair, a body carved from stone, and a personality that doesn't make me want to shove hot forks into my eye sockets. Sign me up. I'll be an anonymous friend that you never actually see on camera any day of the summer. Just had to reach out and get that off my chest. Lots of love to you, Kaya. Keep on being the queen that you are. So I wrote her back. I'm like, hey, Beth, I'm going to try to get him on the podcast. And when I do, I am going to read him this message. And thank you for the emails because it takes so much time to send an email rather than a DM or a comment. And I was like, yeah, it seems that he's quite experienced. So I'm sure that you'll have a good old time in the downstairs room with Emerald. So Beth is writing hard for you. Thank you, Beth. And also thank you, Beth, for writing hard for me by listening and emailing.
That's being my sex agent out there. I love it. It's just
I mean, that's a
where do I sign up?
I mean, that was the reality, right? Like we were watching a person lie to their housemate, and then we were watching a person be very upfront with how many people he was sleeping with, and somehow the person who was being upfront was being villainized. So I was just like,
yeah, it happens.
You know, well,
you know, like I what happened. I mean, it happens in the sense that it's, you know, there seems to be pattern. You know, I'll say a few things before I bounce. You know, it's like what I said on the, I don't know if you say I saw the reunion, but I said is I didn't feel like I got such a bad edit. I feel like I did, but you know, like I think part of me is the Libra in me is always like, well, hold on, you know, there's a balance. There's something I did. I'm also like, I don't like victim, you know, blaming and saying that like it was just me, and it was just everything was against me. There was some things I wish I could have done differently, but again, all told, I feel like I put myself out there. I was honest, and I did a good job. What I didn't realize is they were going to cut out like one of the episodes, like the dinner scene you guys saw, where I talk about my English school, you know, because I would just watch that at that time, because it was also one of the reasons I went on the show was I'm like, okay, well, I have no idea what I want out of this. I really don't know. I just want to have fun. Fuck it, why not? It wasn't like I got to be. This is going to propel my career into this. If it did, fantastic. If it didn't, all good. But what I knew was I was going to have a little platform to talk about what I really think is my life's mission. And they cut that out, and that was just so hurtful. And I'm like, you know, I'm not sure how much I could talk about this. I'm going to talk about it anyway. I don't really care.
No, but this
is what we want to hear. Yeah.
I probably should have my contract, and I don't know how much I could talk about. I don't give a shit at this point because it was fucked up. You know, it was also like right before that, like that. So the weekend that I went up there, that they cut me out of the whole weekend sloppily. You know, you can see my shadow.
Insane. I'm like, wait, is that?
Videos,
I know that man.
Photos. That doesn't happen, but they did it, and I was like, that weekend. I left that weekend, and I didn't always feel this way. Actually, most weekends when I would leave on Sunday, I was just so kind of hungover or whatever. And I was just like, I wasn't sure what I put out there. You know, it was like, was I being as clear? Was I being as direct? You know, all these things that you second guess yourself, right? That weekend I left feeling pretty good. I'm like, that was a fucking good weekend, because I was only there for like Friday to like Saturday. And like I went in there, I was in there the weekend before. And that weekend, I'm like, hey guys, you know, this is after Sierra and Paige talked to me or whatever you want to, you know, like chastise me or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
It wasn't even that much, honestly. It was just like, hey, by the way. And I went in there, I'm like, you know what? I didn't love the way I was being, in the sense that like I'm new to the house. They've been there for a while. I'm just there bringing people back. And that one, that should happen. It is a summer house, but two, I think it was a volume of it all, and then the fact that I wasn't talking about it, and then I can see, okay, hold on, am I not being as, you know, thoughtful and you know, and keeping their feelings in mind and communicating that? I probably wasn't, so I wanted to air that out, and I apologize. And And I made a little joke with Carl, like I'm gonna try to learn from Carl and not go out and not bring people back. They kind of laughed. So, but they cut that whole thing out. And then and then we had the dinner the next day, that night, and it was a good dinner. But they focused on like Wes and Sierra sitting next to each other or whatever it was. I forget, even though like I kind of went into like a 5-minute thing about that, about getting them involved in like the charity events next year if possible. And they're like, okay, well, you know what? We don't love that.
And this is why I wanted
Get
you
them
to
out. And it's
come
like, yeah.
on
Exactly.
here. So can you tell us about your charity, what the goal is, and how we can support you?
Yeah, so the charity it's a foundation that I opened up last year. I go back to Bangladesh every year, and I think a big part of me wanting to make the change is the fact that I see it every day or every year, and I see the abject poverty. There are people, even in my family, who don't have running water, like to the house. They got to go like get it from other places.
Yeah.
Or whatever it is. I mean, there's ways for them. Anyway, it's that kind of poverty over there. Most people think like $200 a month. And that's kind of what you do. And if you excel really, really, if you excel in school, you have a chance of getting out of it, but it's a 0.001% chance, right?
Yep.
So as I'm going back every year, I'm like, okay, well, why not give these people connection to the outside world, and or have like expand their brain just a little bit. I think most people just get tunnel vision and kind of focus on whatever's happening around them. As it's just hard to look past that. So as I started seeing internet come into the country, and especially that island, I'm like, okay, now we can connect people, and now they're on Facebook, they're on this, they're on that, whatever, but they don't feel as connected, I think, to the outside world, to their bubble, if they know English,
Mm-hmm.
And I learned English from a young age. I came over here when I was 5, and I learned it, picked it up right away. And a big part of it is watching movies, and obviously living here helps. But I learned it really, really quickly through multimedia, through music, through watching all these cartoons as a kid. And I want to take the same thing, because if you can teach English fairly easily with 2 kids over time, especially with multimedia. Just have them watch. So we're training people to have them watch these movies 3 times a week, and it's fun for the kids too. And hopefully they learn English through this method. There's some fine tuning in the curriculum and all that, but the whole idea behind it is giving these kids a way to be able to communicate with outside of their bubble.
Yeah.
Especially with internet being prevalent over there. Now, what that does, hopefully in the long term, is give them opportunities to like work, via Photoshop, be a virtual assistant. Whenever you call T-Mobile or any other, shout out T-Mobile, whenever you call, any of these, most companies now, their call centers are not in America, right? They're in the Philippines, they're in India, because they speak English over there. Now they went from making $200 a month to making $600 a month. That's a generational change right there. That is getting you a generational poverty that I think it's so much more accessible than we think. So I think, it just gonna take a little time, and hopefully we're able to expand on it. We have 2 schools, with the ones, my dad's village, one that's opening up in my mom's village. And I want to take this and run with it and make it as large as possible. And it's also relatively low cost. Once it's set up to operate, it's not that expensive. It really isn't. And obviously I want to give, I'd love to give everyone access to running water. That'd be great. It's much more expensive, and I think if we do this, there's a big long-term change.
Yeah.
You start somewhere, you start small, and then like obviously like it's not even, you think that it's small, but it's actually like when you go back or when you check in, you're like, oh my goodness, like this is actually like making a huge difference. So what's the website? What is the charity called, and like how do you want donations? Is it like do we share, like what's the best way to help?
Yeah, I mean, link the GoFundMe. It's still a GoFundMe. We're doing the NGOs over there. It takes some time. I built a website, or I had somebody build a website. Then my father died, and I haven't really put my head around it as much as I wanted to. I'll go back into it and kind of launch that. But the GoFundMe is still the best place. There's never enough, there's all that all that money's going to go towards some really good things over there. Whether eventually I want to get these kids, and that's long term, like get them into a computer lab so they can learn those skills that you can communicate and do all these things from the village, because now there's Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Or you'd work in a farm, you work in the farm, you'd be a fisherman, you'd work in a store. If you did really, really well, you'd maybe get a chance to go to a college. And even then, it's so expensive. This is a way for them to do that, to kind of skip all that, and kind of give themselves some hope. I think you become hopeless in those kind of countries sometimes, because there's life, it just hitting you so hard. Like in that, I'm not trying to make the whole life over there so glim, but it's
no, I think that we're realistic over here. Like, this is a very heavily people of color, queer people, and like this is an intersection of Bravo within.
Yeah.
Like people who are aware of things that are happening that can also sit back and have fun and watch reality TV. Yeah. But obviously, real shit is popping, and you're trying to make a change, and you weren't able to show that on the national, like at the level that you should have been able to. So, like, that's so dope.
Thank you so much for saying that. One of the other things too I didn't get to talk about is I also design pants. Like a lot of the pants you guys saw on the show, I designed them in Bangladesh. What I'm opening up hopefully in the next 6 months is just more of that. It's like my way to be creative, and I actually like it a lot. And when I'm at that,
cool.
Are you designing pants for men only, or can I also have pants?
Yeah,
you can, for anyone, And I think it cost me like $10 to make these pants, so 10, 12 bucks, like amazing, just like fabricated just for you. And what my vision in this is, we're gonna do this with only women. It's harder for women to find jobs over there.
Hell yeah,
especially if you're not, especially in that kind of field, when they just don't respect women the same way for this. It's just a weird thing. That's what I see with a lot of tailors in Bangladesh. It's mostly men. So I want to give this to women, and then have them to do it, and give them a really good salary. Hopefully, we can do all those things at the same time.
That's so cool.
And they're really cool pants. Carl said he'd wear.
Did you wear them on the show?
Yeah, I wore them. I wore a blue pair, a white pair on the show.
Are they like wide leg?
Yeah, they're not as wide leg, but they're more like, they kind of have like a cummerbund kind of style to it. And
yes.
I made another one recently. I made a few of them. One that I really like, and Carl said he'd wear.
Wait, do you know how to sew?
What was that?
Do you know how to sew?
No, I have zero skills. But I can oversee a lot of things.
But you designed it, yeah.
He's 6'2" also. Yeah.
He's 6'2". He
by the way,
with textiles, and he's opening a school for.
By the way, he's 6'2". By the way.
Okay. Also, by the way, I looked at the GoFundMe. You guys, this is what we should be donating to instead of a soft bar. No disrespect, actually, all disrespect to Carl, but at the same time, shout out to Carl for choosing to wear your pants. That's nice of him. So
Carl's a good guy. I mean, I haven't met him before all this, but he's a guy.
He is sweet. I'm just being a hater, but we should be donating to the school.
It's super expensive.
Oh, well, if I'm going to choose, babe, I'm going to choose the person of color. Like, you ain't got to tell me that.
Yeah.
Like, the GoFundMe will be linked below. Imrul, thank you so much for coming to chat with us. I hope that you find amazing documentaries. I will be linking the GoFundMe. I will be waiting for the pants, especially. I will be a pants influencer. Because I'm waiting on that.
I'm gonna send you some photos of the designs when I get around to that, and and see if you like any of the designs, and let me know. I'll get you a pair. And
then we can say that we got into Imrul's pants.
There you go.
That was the whole reason that I get up this podcast. Been an elaborate scheme for me.
I'm just kidding.
Imrul.
No.
Well, thank you.
Give me the email of that woman so I can reach out to her and thank her. And Beth.
Oh yeah, Beth. Beth.
Of course.
Yeah.
Shout out to Beth.
Shout out to Beth. You're a real one. Thank you so much.
Exactly.
Great. And 37 minutes. It was awkward, but credit to Jessie for being so comfortable in a uncomfortable situation. That is a fucking skill set.
Imrul.
It was only a tell.
Imrul, we're all friends here.
Imrul
too honest.
I just want to ask you.
I'm too honest. It just.
Wait.
I wish I was a better liar.
Wait, I want to ask.
So much better in this.
37 minutes. Was it? Honestly, just a toe suck, or was
it just a toe suck? He was outside he was just standing in the corner, sipping on a drink or whatever he was doing for 85 minutes of that. And it's credit to him for being comfortable in that situation.
Okay, so it was just a
full clothes on.
You heard it here, you guys. We got literally Imrul, and he doesn't need to lie because he's off contract. He already announced that he wasn't coming back. He's a friend of Bravo, We're Black, and also a friend of The Reality Is. So it was just a toe suck. He has to go vote now, you guys. So we got to let him go. But thank you for listening. We're linking everything below. Thank you, Imrul, for coming. And you guys listen to Bravo, We're Black streaming like all the time. Listen to The Reality Is streaming all the time. And I'll be back to talk. What am I going to talk? Oh, A24 emailed me, you guys. So I need you guys to like go up for me, because if I can get like a partnership with A24, that would be amazing, because I've been a fan of that company since Spring Breakers.
Amazing.
So if anyone knows someone at A24, also tell them that I'm a huge fan. So yeah, I'll be back to talk about The Materialists, which is an A24 movie, so I can give them some content on A24. So, all right. Thank you guys. Thank you for listening. Bye.
Bye.